Okay. So, to live a full life is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all. These are the immortal words of Oscar Wilde. They're not mine. Hello, everyone, and welcome. For those who don't know me, my name is Karishma, and I'm the Program Director of the SIG Learning Series brought to you by the Scholars International Group. Today's is a rather spectacular storytelling session of someone who has experienced the full length and breadth of this incredible human experience that we're all in. He has lived his colorful life king size, charted his own path by being unapologetically himself, yet owned up to the mistakes and owned his mistakes that he's made along the way. Mr. Rajan Lall is a founder and chairman managing director of Garments, Trims and Accessories, a leading global company in the garments trim sector, operating under Mainetti, a world leader in hanger production. He was born in Karachi and raised in Mumbai post-Partition. Rajan Lall's journey is defined by resilience and reinvention. From monopolizing the garment trims market in India in the 80s, am I correct? 70s, 80s, to successful stints in Bollywood. He was known as the dubbing king of Bollywood, to dubbing Hollywood films like Schindler's List in Hindi, to relocating to Dubai at the age of 53 to start afresh and build GTA in the year 2000. This life is nothing short of extraordinary, and it continues to stay extraordinary, which you will read in the autobiography that he has worked on for the last 4 years, A Labor of Love, written by the author Manju Brahman.
Yes.
Welcome, Rajan Uncle.
Thank you for calling me uncle.
I've known him for too long. I can't do it any other way. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're going to start by a little book reading.
Yes.
You?
I think we'll start on a
Okay.
book reading, and then we'll go on. I'm going to read a chapter of my book, just to start off on the book reading, and I have chosen this chapter, which says, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do." I'm reading till 2007.
Speak to the mic a little louder.
Till 2007, the business was going great guns. Post-birthday, a lot of things happened, like what happened on my 50th birthday in 2008. The financial crash occurred worldwide, and Dubai was affected. My business also came down drastically. By that time, the garment business had slowed down out of Dubai because of the quota problem. UAE lost its duty-free status for exports to America. Garments used to be exported duty-free from the UAE, and the benefit was lifted. So garment exporters either shut down or moved to countries where their duty-free status existed. In between this time, all problems came in threes. The first was the accident stated above, the second was the financial crisis, and the third one was that the lady from whom I had bought her factory and who was running the battery and bucket business had started doing her own business on the side. She started her own parallel business in the same field while working for me in my company, and had become a silent competitor. When I got to know, I confronted her and she admitted it. Instead of taking severe legal action, I let her go gracefully. She is a major competitor of mine in the bucket business today, but I have maintained and kept a good relationship with her. We help each other out. These are the kinds of betrayals that I have encountered in my life, but I have not broken off my relationships. I have always maintained them, though I know the truth. When the crash happened, I too had ventured into a business I had no knowledge of. A friend of mine, who was the sister of Raman Babu, whom I started the films with, had started selling steel to all developers in Dubai. But she approached me to import steel from India and sell it here, and she had the contacts. That is why I reached out to my friend and partner in the yacht which I own, Ashok Puri, and he agreed to invest in it with another partner with a small share. We imported steel from India, and the consignment was worth a lot of money since we had an order to supply it. We were happy that the shipment was sold off, but the consignment was returned, saying that the UAE government then didn't allow steel from India to be used in construction in the UAE. We had no clue about this, and neither did she, but we got stuck with the consignment and had to eventually get rid of the steel with great losses. We also lost a lot of money, and she disappeared after all that happened. In the bargain, I had to sell a couple of apartments I had bought for investment, as well as the yacht, and pay for some of the cash to account for the loss that went out of my business. It took me 8 to 10 years to recover the losses, and all this when the crash had already happened. With business gone down by 70%, I had salaries to pay, a business to run, and I was on the verge of collapse. That was the time when my son Nikhil came to me and she said he couldn't work with me since he couldn't be a burden on me. He had a music business he was running and he wanted to focus there, and I let him go. I was left alone to handle the situation. I was back to square one again in 2008 and had moved into my villa in the Palm that I had got possession of. I had expenses to pay, but the sales had dropped low, and it was a tough way to pay salaries, but I was not one to give up. I thrive in adversity. I immediately decided to move some of my machinery to Jordan, Kenya, Swaziland, and Madagascar, and in the downturn opened up 4 new factories where the garment industry had shifted. I wanted to be there in their backyard and went to Jordan to set up the factory there, then to Nairobi, then to South Africa and Madagascar. The decision sounds easy, but I know how tough it was back then. I had no one, I had newer avenues to bring my business back on track. Fortunately, I had staff and employees from my Indian company ITL, whom I trusted and who backed me up strongly. I could do this only with their help and support. That was when we took a cut in all our salaries, and my staff and labor strongly supported me and told me, "We are with you and we will see it through this phase." It took me about 6 months to set up all these factories and get going, but I did it all by myself, living in these cities which were very new to me. These were foreign shores I had never visited before. Still, I braved it all by staying in cheaper hotels, cutting costs, supervising every detail, including employing labor and staff from these countries, and putting my entrusted employees from Dubai to run the show. The whole process took a huge toll on me emotionally, physically, and mentally. It is the strength of Sai Baba and my mother's blessings that sailed me through with flying colors. Within 1 year, all centers started running smoothly, making profits and supporting themselves. Had I not made this decision, my company GT in Dubai would not exist. I handled my creditors and banks with great care and saw to it that everyone was paid through delayed at times. I informed every one of them about the situation. They all supported me during these times. I have realized that I am my best friend in life. You have to understand that nobody really helps you in your time of need, but you have first to help yourself and then decide to safeguard your interests first. Somehow, with my Baba's blessings and mother's blessings, 1 year passed and I could manage to salvage the company and bring it back on its feet without much damage being done. My mother was always supportive and positively motivated me to keep going. She always said, "Don't worry, everything will work out well eventually." At this time, another accident happened, and my mother fell and broke her hip. She was very affected till then. She was very active till then. Be it me reading the newspaper, going for walks, doing yoga, and mingling with all my guests who adored her. She suffered a setback and went through surgery. We replaced her hip and she had to be confined to a wheelchair. She never recovered from it. Despite her condition, she was always cheerful, positive, and supportive. Many people supported me since this is a period to tell when from the staff.
Shall we?
When from the job, when things from Shefi.
We're good.
When things started coming back to normal, Nikhil returned. He couldn't hear me, bear to see me overworking, and he had marveled at the fact that I did it all past my 60th birthday. Hats off to you, Dad. "Can I come back and start work again?" He said. I welcomed him back, and deep down he had renewed respect for what I had done, not just as a dad, but as a business.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So let's start from the very beginning. You grew up as a Punjabi Jew. Your father was Punjabi, your mother was a Jewish woman. That is a quite unique childhood setup. How did that shape your childhood and worldview?
Well, Karishma, we don't choose our parents. But yes, my father was a Kashmiri Pandit from Kashmir, and my mother was a Jew. They met in 1944 or something like that in Karachi. And I think they were living opposite each other in the apartment in Karachi. And Dad must have immediately fallen. They were four sisters. So he wanted to go after her and meet her. So he started playing badminton and started playing tennis, though he was not a sportsman at all. And eventually they met, fell in love, and there was strong opposition from her father's side because she was already engaged to be married to a very famous journalist called Nissim Ezekiel, very famous guy. And being a Jew, she said, if you ever marry outside the community, I will kill you, poison you, and then poison myself. I mean, it was that bad. But eventually they did get married secretly, but they were living in their respective homes for another 2-3 years. And he told nobody. And eventually when I was conceived and I was born in 47, things came out in the open. And of course, after I was born, things changed, and my grandfather loved me to death, and from my mother's side, and things turned out well. But this was in February of 47, and unfortunately in 6 months partition happened, and we had to leave the country, and it was a very tough time for them because at that time leaving Karachi and coming to India or Bombay was difficult, and we had a big family. So I remember my mother told me that first she came with me to Bombay alone. Then all the other family members, my brother, dad's brothers, and everybody else, one by one, had to come and leave. And we had nowhere to go to in Bombay in 47. And there was a big family, and a lot of friends came along with us. So they were living in a one-bedroom, small place in Mahim somewhere for, I think, nearly a year, trying to find their bearings. But you leave everything and come, you know how partition was. And they had to start life all over again. So it was a very tough time for them, and I was only 6 months old.
What was life like for you, though, growing up?
For me, when I grew up a bit, I realized they had got an apartment, a nice apartment in Churchgate in south of Bombay. And they had to start life all over again. My dad had an insurance business in Pakistan. So he started that in India. And then, unfortunately, within a year, that got nationalized. So they became part of LIC, and they became government servants.
Okay.
In the meantime, the other friends who had come, one of them was my mama, who was my mother's J.C. Jain. He was with them, and other people like Mr. Punjabi, Mr. Ram Panjwani, and Mr. Advani. They were friends. They all came together, and they wanted to start a business. So one of the Mr. Punjabi offered my dad, that listen, I have a proposal for 2 companies to buy. One is Bandbox, which is a very popular name in India today. People who live in Bombay know Bandbox as a dry cleaning company. And the other was Unique Printing Press, which was a printing press. So my dad chose the printing business because he had no idea about the laundry business. So my mother was a chartered accountant, qualified chartered accountant. She was a singer, classical singer, and a very great sportswoman. She took up the challenge and started working with the printing press. And Dad was working in LIC. And those were days when I was just beginning to grow up and realize when I was in school. And I was in St. Xavier's High School at that time. And I know my school life was very good, excellent, and I was not a great guy in studies, but I was a sportsman, and I played cricket and badminton for my school, college, and also for the state later on. And that's the time when in school I met my friend Mr. Sunil Gavaskar, who is now a legend in cricket, and I used to play with him in school, so I know him from that time. And school life was good.
But school life was good, college life was even better. You went to study chemistry, but you landed up joining a singing group. You became the black sheep of your family. What set you apart, and how did that impact you going forward?
Black sheep of the family sometimes is good when you have a living example sitting here. My father was very controlling and always wanted to control. But I had to tell you something here, that I had two fathers and two mothers. One was Mr. Balla and one was my dad, Mr. Lall. They were not relatives. They were not connected to each other, related to each other, but they were friends from school and college. They married, they got lived together, and they lived together in their apartment till the day they died. So this was a very unique situation which I was in, when having two fathers and two mothers. And me and my brother were brought up in that environment. And when 4 or 5 people are living in the house, it's all like all are different characteristics and they're all chalk and cheese. My uncle and dad were chalk and cheese, but they were a team. So I remember in my drawing room there was a frame on the wall which said, "First plan your work and then work your plan." I never understood it at that time. And then I kept asking my mom, "What does this mean?" She says, "You're too young for it. When you grow up, you'll understand." And it's now later on in life when I started business that I realized that they were a team, that you first plan your work, who was my uncle, and then work your plan, which was my dad. So uncle thought of the plan and dad executed, and that's how they formed a very formidable team together.
Amazing. Let's talk about your mom, who you have mentioned so beautifully in your book, and her financial prowess. There's an extract about how his mom was this incredibly, she was everything. She was beautiful, she was intelligent, she was smart, but there's a bit about how she would budget the household expenses and save a little for the mutton, save a little for the eggs, save a little for the milk. And that's something that you said has stayed with you for so long that today you manage the sales, petty cash for yourself, for all your businesses. Can I ask you, after so many years running such a huge multinational, how does that work, or is delegating better?
That's an issue I have with my son Nikhil even today. Yes, I saw this, when you're young, at an age of 6, 7 to 10, I have a granddaughter now, Aneri, and I watch her growing up. And she is so intelligent, and she sits and observes everything. And I realize now, when I was of her age, I used to listen to everything that's happening in the house. And when my parents used to sit in the hall in the morning and talk, I used to sit down and observe. So you keep up, a child's brain is like a sponge that observes everything. Even if you fight for some reason, the parents are fighting, or there's a fight in the house, or the words sometimes they use the wrong language, you pick it up.
Yep.
And I realized from that time as a child that I was, the ideologies of my parents and my two fathers were completely different. My father and mother were very much into the social scene at that time, because J.C. Jain, who ran Times of India and general manager, and he had started the magazine called Filmfare, which we all know what it's about. He started the Filmfare Awards and the Illustrated Weekly and the Femina and the Screen. And he had the complete Bollywood at that time at his feet, because he was a kingmaker. And that was the kind of social life that my parents were involved in. I used to see as a child, because they used to have huge parties at home, music parties, and all kinds of parties at home, and I was to watch that. My uncle on the other side was a completely different person. He practiced homeopathy, and he had on Sundays people coming free of cost. He used to treat people. He used to be a magician, and I was to be his so-called Jamura at that time. And he was into magic, and he was into jokes, and he had a book printed, Laugh and More Laughs. So I was seeing the complete difference at that age and seeing how they were going to go. But later on, things turned to be a little different, which we'll talk about later.
Yes. Let's talk about, you managed to pass college. You managed to get a job through your dad's connections. You managed to get fired from your first job. You took it for granted. You quit your second job to start your own business, which turned out to be one of the best decisions you've made in your life. What's your biggest advice to young professionals today?
Today, young professionals, I would advise that, when I got my first job after I passed my BSc in chemistry, which I had no idea about, I even copied in my exam and passed. And came out with 39%. I just managed to pass. I was not a great guy at studies, but I didn't know what I was going to do, so I was working with my mom in the printing press, and I did a diploma in printing technology from JJ School of Arts and everything. And I was working to earn some money. And then suddenly my dad came and said, I have a job for you. You see, when your father and your family comes from a working class of people, from middle class working people, their thoughts are only limited to you have to become an engineer or a doctor or whatever and get a job and be secure in life and get married and settle down. I was beyond that. I was thinking there's a lot more that can happen to me. I didn't know. And one thing I must tell you here, that whatever has happened to me is not something that I chased, but there's something that just happened to me by sheer destiny. I just happened to take the opportunity. And I believe that for all the viewers or the youngsters who are there in future, I must tell you all that everybody in life gets an opportunity in life. The only thing is you have to recognize it and take it and grab it with both your hands and do your best what you can do with it, right? So when he got me a job in SIVA, and at that time Mr. Gautam Sehgal was the chairman of the company. SIVA is the big pharmaceutical and the cosmetics company. And I was a third class pass. He had my uncle, Mr. Nakul Sen, was the governor of Goa at that time. And he told him, he said, listen, my son is, I don't know what he is doing. Nobody's going to give him a job with his qualifications. My CV was nothing. And he said, I need you to get him a job in SIVA since you know Gautam Sehgal. Gautam Sehgal happened to be Nayanthara Sehgal's husband, who was Mr. Nehru's sister. Nayanthara Sehgal was Nehru's sister.
When we talk about Mr. Nehru, we're talking about Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. Yeah.
Jawaharlal Nehru, yes. So he was on that level. So he asked him, he said, I have a nephew and I'd like you to give him a job. So I went to see SIVA and he gave me the job. Now, that job was either marketing executive or a trainee at 1,500 rupees a month. At that time, it was a lot of money. And I was surrounded by all these gold #1 toppers of MBA and IIT and IIM, I don't know what. And I was the only so-called the bad guy or the black sheep. But I have always been a rebel in my life. Now, why was I a rebel in my life? Was there were situations where I was always controlled, and I was by my father, and I was feeling very
Suffocated
and confused, and I was not liking it. Somehow I didn't have a great relationship with my father anyway. But when I got this job, I straight away went into the cosmetics division. At that time, there was the Binaka fluoride, Binaka green, Binaka top, and there was a very famous program on Radio Ceylon called the Binaka Geetmala. So for people who've been in that age and know what Binaka Geetmala is, and suddenly I was thrown into the public eye of the Bollywood, again with Mr. Amin Sayani, whom I worked with for 1.5 years. And Amin Sani, as you all know, is a legend on radio. And I got a chance to work with him, but I took my job for granted. I thought, my uncle's a governor, and what I have. So I used to go to office late and come out when I want, started going out, having fun. So one day, Mr. Sehgal called me and said that, would you like to resign or should I fire you? So I said, you can't fire me. My uncle is the governor of Goa. So he said, I can fire you. So I called up my uncle and said, he's firing me. He said, what happened? You must have done something in it. I said, no, I didn't do anything. He said, no, you must have. Anyway, resign. So he resigned, I resigned, and next day I resigned and came out. And after that, I was a little shaken up with what happened. My, of course, family was very upset with me. And then through Mr. J.C. Jain, I got another job in Bayer India, which is a pharmaceutical company in the rubber chemicals division. And in that, I put my full heart and soul into it because of my first job. And I proved myself, and in that 1.5 years when I was there, I got promotion 3 times of my salary. And they were going to send me to Leverkusen in Germany for further training. And I've had a great career. This one thing which I've learned, which I must share with you all, is I used to work late in office. The timing was 9 to 5, and I used to sit there till 7:30 to prove to my bosses, German bosses, that I'm a very hard worker. One day my boss, Mr. Liedke, called me and he says, why are you working till 7:30? I said, sir, there's a lot of work here, and I have to finish it. So he said, Mr. Lall, you're given 9 to 5, you've got 8 hours or 9 hours for work. And if you can't finish the work given to you in the 8-9 hours, there's something wrong with you, which means that during your office hours, you're fooling around with your colleagues or having coffee and not doing your work which is supposed to do.
Were you doing that?
I was.
Okay.
I was. And during the daytime, we used to sit and have chats and, passing time. And then 7:30, I used to sit there. He said, all the clerks and the peons, they have homes to go to, they have trains to catch. They cannot stay late for you. From tomorrow, if you don't leave at 5:15 p.m. sharp, I'll fire you.
One way or another, you were getting fired up.
Yeah, I'll fire you. I realized inside and said what he said was right. That German boss of mine taught me a lesson that day. That even today, when we have our office from 9 to 6 or whatever time, I have people sitting till 7:30, 8 or something just to prove to me the same thing what I tried to my boss. And I keep telling them that if you can't finish your work till the time given to you, you're not doing your work during the day, you're fooling around. But that's something that I learned in life from that German boss of mine, that when you're working, you have to work the 9 to 6, you do your work and get out. So that's, every step of the way where I've been to, I've learned something. So when you talk of mentors and you talk of people who have taught you, it's not mentoring as in going to school or a teacher telling you what to do. It's basically the people who you meet in life that you've been through, who teach you everything, little thing in life, what it's all about. From my first job being fired to my second job doing what I did. And then suddenly what happened after that was, there's a gentleman from UK who came in, Mr. Sabarwal. He was all dressed in a suit and he had 100 rupee notes inside him and he was lavishly throwing them out and he was smoking a pipe. And I was very impressed with him, and he came into my life after that, and he happened to be my dad's and uncle's typist in Karachi days when he had Eastern Life Insurance. And he had made it big in the UK, in Birmingham. And he had made a lot of money, and his style was this. I was very impressed with this guy. And I said, and from that time, I must tell you that I started smoking a pipe from the age of 21 till late. And I used to idolize him. So when he came and he said that, I want your son. He told my father, I want your son. So he said, what for? He said, I want to start a business in India and I want him to head the company and I'm going to make him into a businessman. I had no clue what it was or what it was about. He talked about something called interlining at that stage. I said, what is interlining? He said, interlining is the bakram which you put in your collar, the stiffener, what you call. And that's what he wanted to make me.
So buckram is basically the fabric that we used to stiffen our collar.
The stiffening of the collar.
And you monopolized that market eventually.
That was the story that happened eventually, which we became very big suppliers in India. I think we were the biggest in the country at that time. And when I took that decision now, it was a decision whether go to Leverkusen, Germany, and follow the path of my parents, or to leave my job and join a person who's come out of nowhere after 14 years and join him, not knowing what the path in future was.
Right.
Now that's the decision which I had to take at my age of 19 or 20, or whatever it was. And I took a decision to resign and leave my job and take a plunge into trying my hand in business.
And we kind of know what's happened from then till now, and there's such incredible stuff in the book about it.
Yeah.
What I want to talk to you about, you've talked about your relationship with your father, and you wanted to leave, that's what made you rebel. How has that affected your relationship with your own children?
Well, I'll tell you that I told you my relationship with my father was not great. We're not much on talking terms. We're always at loggerheads. And my mother was the only support, and my uncle who was there was more of a father to me than my own father was. And there was always conflict between us. But once it reaches, there's always a breaking point. And at one stage with my father, I reached a breaking point with him, and I had a confrontation with him, which was not at all good. But after that day, I told my dad to back off. And that's the time when things changed for me, and I became an absolute rebel. I'm the black sheep of the family. I did exactly opposite of what he wanted me to do or told me to. And that completely changed the course of my life. And I took the decision to leave because he said, you can't leave the job. I said, I will leave the job and I will join this man. And I did that. And this was much against the wishes of everybody else. But there was more to come later on in that, because this person who came from London had an ulterior motive in his mind when he came to me and asked for me to join him. He probably wanted me to marry his daughter. And that I got to know much later. So I started the whole business with him, made it successful, learned the business, which was interlining, with an American company, which was leading worldwide. And we brought a new technique or technology into the country, which is even today in vogue, which we started making top fuse line beam. You fuse the collar. See, earlier our Indian shirts, as you see, were made after one point they wanted to bubble or shrink and all that. We brought in the technology where today the collars which are there of international stuff, we brought that technology. I learned that technology. So when all this happened, one fine day when the business was running, and he realized that I'm not going to marry his daughter because I was going around with Aruna, my wife at that time, the mother of my 2 children, and I had met her for 6 months. And my parents always, I was suffocating in my own house, and they said, we will not leave this house unless you're married. When you get married, we'll get you a separate house. So I met her and I found her to be right, and I said I want to marry her. This was at the age of
21?
21. They said, if you can't get married at 21, you're just starting something new, whatever it is. I said, no, I wanted to get out of the house. So I said, no, I want to get married. So after a lot of problems, we did get married at the age of 21 in 1969. And we separated, and I had another house, my grandmother's house, which was next door. And we moved in there, and that was my comfort zone. And subsequently to that, next thing I knew is that I was thrown out of the interlining business. I was, one fine day, there's a newspaper ad in the paper saying, Mr. Rajan Lall is now managing director of DHA Interlinings India, and please do not deal with him. He had brought his son in, whom I had trained for the last 1.5, 2 years, and he took over suddenly. And suddenly the floor was under my feet. I mean, the ground just, I didn't know what to do. So at that age and just being married, I didn't know what to do. And at that stage, you start thinking, so these are all the betrayals which you get in life, I'm not saying those betrayals were only from one side. I could have been also responsible partly for it because it's always a two-way affair. So when this happened, I was thinking I might go to Dubai. In those days, Dubai was a big thing, going to Dubai, or what to do. Nothing happened. And I went to one of my customers and I told him that, this is the situation. So he says, what's your problem? You know the business. You know the interlining business. You know the technology. Why don't you start your own company? I said, I don't have the funds. My parents are not going to support me. So this gentleman, one name was Mr. Kiku Samdani, he was one of the garment exporters and one of my customers at that time. He opened the drawer and took out a wad of 10,000 rupees, threw it on the table, and he says, here's your money and start your business. So I said, what? So he says, go and get stuff which is raw material or whatever the fabric is, get it processed and start supplying to me. So with the 10,000 rupees, I started that and I floated my company ITL, which is Inter-Trim Linings, which is an interlining and it's a trim. So ITL, he gave me the name of that company and I started the company at home. And with me and my wife at that time, she was looking after the back end and I was looking after the front. So I was getting it processed and all that. The whole thing is in the book about how it all started.
We'll let people read the book for that.
So that I'm just telling you the synopsis of it. And the business started picking up. And over a period of time, things started moving and I used to get the goods, sit in the tempo, deliver it myself, make the bill, get my money, come back, give the money back to my person and kept investing and the business kept growing.
Amazing. So you were exposed to Bollywood from such a young age and you have managed to use the contacts even to help you with your business. But your Bollywood life and your business life are such a dichotomy because you've lived life king size, you've had a lot of glitz, glamour, and we know Bollywood heroes and heroines, they're like gods in society, even today. But your businesses have been so incredibly unglamorous, right?
Yes.
Trim lining,
Yes.
hangers. You identify these niche industries,
Yes.
with these hi-fi people. How did you balance that? How did you balance those two worlds?
One thing I must tell you, Karishma, is that the businesses which we selected or I selected or happened to fall into my lap, an inclining business, nobody thinks about these businesses that you can build an empire out. Now you're selling 20 centimeters of a fabric, imagine that, and nobody ever thought that you create a niche business and create a market out of it and make money out of it. Same thing is with hangers, which came to me in the 90s when the American company Tyco came to me and said, you're the biggest supplier of trims in the country and we want you to make hangers for us. So I said, what is hangers for what? Hangers for the entire retail trade in the world, in USA, Europe, everywhere. He says, we are the leaders in the market and we want to set up shop in India. So that happened to me. These things just came to me and I took them and I grabbed them and I did justice to them, which I'm doing even till today. So these opportunities come and I took them and they worked out well for me. But unfortunately, at every stage, there was a disaster waiting for me.
Let's talk about that. So your Bollywood life, your businesses, it also impacted your family life.
Yes.
Right, with your wife, Aruna. How did it impact your family life and how did it impact your relationship with your children?
In between the time when I had given up my business in my job at Bayer and had got started in business, there was another opportunity that came up in life. And that was the friend of mine from Delhi. He owned a company called Kapoor Lampshade, Mr. Kiran Kapoor. And he came to me with a friend of mine. He said, I want to open up this chandelier. Kapoor Lampshade, from the name it appears you're selling lampshades, but actually they sell chandeliers and they're known all over India as one of the big crystal chandelier manufacturers, a company which still exists. So he said, I want to set up shop in Bombay. Now setting up shop in Bombay is not easy, the prices of showroom.
Bureaucracy,
The pagadi, what we call the blood money. At that time, see how things happened. There was a gentleman called Mr. Rambatra who owned Bandbox. Now, when we bought Bandbox and we bought my printing press, he was married to Mr. Punjabi's daughter Jamna, and by that he started Bandbox and made Bandbox into an empire. It was a huge empire, and he was not only doing Bandbox, but he was a very well-known citizen of Bombay. He was the sheriff of Bombay. He was the owner of the Maharashtra State Lawn Tennis Association, and he was the one who started the famous Chinmaya mission with Swami Chinmayanand in Powai. So he had a lot of, he was a very well-known person, but a very humble person, wearing a white pant, white shirt, going to work. And he came into my life, and he was my first real mentor who guided me and told him. So I went up to him, he said, "Beta, what are you doing these days?" "Uncle, I'm doing nothing. But there's a friend of mine from Delhi, Kapoor Lampshade. He wants to have some showrooms in." He says, "What, you want showrooms?" He said, "I've got 22 showrooms which I'm closing down. These laundry shops where you see, earlier you used to go to the laundry company and pick up. Now you have home delivery." So he says, "I'm closing down my showroom. You pick which showroom you want, I'll give it to you." Just like that. So I called him, I called my friend up, he came to Bombay. So we looked to locations, we looked at Kalagoda, we looked at Linking Road. He said, "This will do." He said, "It's yours." And I'm just telling you how the things happened.
Uncle, I think we should leave that for people to read also in the book. And
Sorry?
let's leave some mystery for people to read in the book as well.
Oh, there's a lot
You're going to
more.
do such incredible book signings after this. But how do you think your journey would have turned out if Bollywood had not been part of your life?
See, we've been talking about Bollywood a lot, the Karishma, but Bollywood in some form, like I said, at the age of 6, when you're listening, seeing what is happening around you, which was all Bollywood, somehow comes into your DNA and remains within you dormant.
Right.
And that was dormant in me till 1990, when I didn't know what it was. I was with Bollywood, but I wasn't with Bollywood. I wasn't involved with it. My only claim to fame was that my parents knew all the Bollywood stars and the parties and everything. I was just a small kid. But I always, of course, dreamt of doing something, I don't know what. Again, opportunity which came to me in 90, we'll talk about later. That was the time. But here I want to tell you something and come back to you on this Kapoor Lampshade story. I'm just telling you about my mentor, Mr. Rambatra, how things happen and change. Is that when this gentleman came and he said, "This is yours," I had no money. And he said, "Okay, open the shop. So what's my role in it? What am I going to be in it?" And when Mr. Kapoor met Mr. Rambatra and told him that, "How is Mr. Rambatra?" Says, "I'm doing this for my nephew, he's like my son. And I want Rajan to be involved in this deal." But he says, "But he has no money. So how can we involve him?" He says, "We'll give him a small 30,000-40,000 rupees commission, which will get him through, and we'll do our deal." So Mr. Batra got him and walked away. Now this is where the character of the person comes in. And he got up and walked away. And he said, "I don't want to deal with your Delhi lalas, the way you're talking." He said, "You just call somebody in and you throw him away when you finish with it. I'm sorry, I don't want to do business with you." So he stopped him. He says, hold on, what do you mean?" He says, I don't know you. I know Rajan Lall, I know his father, I know his family. I'm doing this for him. If he's not involved, I'm sorry, I'm not interested." So they sat down and worked out that how I would be involved. So they said, "Okay, let Rajan get 1% of the sales of Kapoor and 1% of the sales of Modern Home, which is 2%. And that's how, and he will remain as a partner in Kapoor Lampshades and he will handle things." So that was decided. I got to know about this much later from Mr. Rambatra, what happened. But that 2% of mine, Karishma, in those days used to give me close to 50,000 to a lakh of a month.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. So, like that, my luck changed, and then all this happened. And the first thing I did was I just bought an imported car, which is a Ford Mustang, which I own, and I should drive around it. But that's how things changed before the ideal started and stuff like this happened. This is what I wanted to tell you about my mentors. And he played a very important role in my life. And I'm a teetotaler. I never drank in my life. But this man taught me, because one day we went to a party, and it was a party with not very sociable people or very effective people. And I bought 2 drinks for him on the whiskey drink, and I told him, I said, "Uncle, here's your drink." And he just looked up at me and said, "Beta, I never drank in my life." I kept the glass down and my glass down, and that's the day I never touched drinks and I never had drinks in my life. But that's one of the reasons. The other reason is another story, which I'll talk to you about later.
Right. So can we talk now about your personal life?
My
and
what?
your personal life and your relationships. You have had very progressive views on women. You believe that they are equal participants, that they should be, especially the way women are raised in our society, and that men and women should be able to express their feelings to each other freely for better relationships. How do you reflect on your personal relationships with the women in your life over the years? What have they taught you? Do you have any regrets about your relationships?
This is a very embarrassing part of my life. Of course, I've had a lot of women in my life, and this was way back from school. Even in college, I had a lot of relationships in my life. And even when I got married, I had known my wife for about 6 months. And subsequent to that, my marriage at that time, when my first son was born in 71, Amit, and then subsequently Nikhil was born 7 years later. And my marriage was not exactly the best marriage one could have at that time, because we were poles apart in our thinking. And I had, that's one of the biggest mistakes in my life, which I regret now, is that, you give up on a relationship where it affects the life of so many people. And that was one of my biggest mistakes in my life, which I realized very late in life, because I lost not only the wife part, but I lost the childhood of my children. And I was not there for them when we split in 1980, when we split from it. And that cause was again the cause because there was another woman in my life. And destiny again played its turn when I wanted to break up with the relationship and get back, and things happened in such a way that it went south. You read about that. But not realizing at that age that your ego and your impulsive decisions can change the lives of so many people around you, especially the lives of your wife, your children, your parents, your friends, your business friends, and you can ostracize from society. When I left my marital home and I moved out, I lost all my friends. I lost, of course, my family and everybody else, and they all used to walk away from me when I was coming to greet them, and they would walk away. So I've seen all that and being ostracized from society. But I lived through that right from 80 to 87 or 88 when I was with the other woman I was with at that time, and realized how things change with people, how it is. But I wanted to always give respect to the woman I'm with at that time. And that's what I did. And I paid a heavy price for it. But on the hindsight, not thinking at that age how it would affect your family life. Now that is supposed to be most important, and that is my biggest regret in life, that I was not there for my children during their growing up years. And it all triggered off with the relationship with my father. That's how it all came up from. But these regrets are there, and the book is all about admitting all the mistakes that I made in life, which people, I think they should think before they jump.
So, you were not involved in your children's lives until they were teenagers?
Sorry?
Until they were teenagers, you were not really involved in their lives.
No,
How did you reconnect with them?
I made a lot of attempts as children. I mean, Nikhil is here, he knows it. Amit and Nikhil are couple 7 or 8 years apart. And more than Nikhil, my elder son Amit was affected by it. Because you know what happens when a family splits and you're getting to do well in life, and the insecurities of the mother creeps in, and she wants to keep the children, and you want to meet the children and keep the children. And whatever she did at that time was not speak very highly about what the father has done to the children, which the children absorb and they keep it for life. So they grew to kind of hate me as a father because I was not there for them, which I don't blame them. But that kind of thing affected my elder son the most because he just went into wrong things and wrong directions, and he grew up with a lot of hate and venom inside him about his father. Nikhil luckily was too young for that time, and he grew up and went to school, and after that he came to me and Dad I want to go to college. He went abroad for studies, and that time I was with this other lady whom I was with for nearly 22 years. She convinced me to let him go to America, and he was kind of saved from that situation. But he also, during his childhood, must have also had his feelings about what his father was or who his father was. But there comes a time, because I was not allowed to spend time with them or be with them, my mother used to bring the children to me separately on the quiet and spend weekends with me and be with me. And I was trying to create a bond with them. But you can't really create a bond over a weekend. You know, you need time with them, you need to spend time with them. And plus, they had been brought up with a lot of things which the mother had talked to them about me. That created a very big gap between us. And when the children grew up and came of age, like my elder son and Nikhil, when they came up, Amit came up, they said, you know what, we've heard so much against things about my father, who he is. We want to know our father. We want to know who he is. Whether he is really that kind of a devil or whatever you call it, is what I was told he is. So at one stage, when they got to know me, when I was doing well, they came up to me one by one and talked to me. They want to know you. And Nikhil was, I remember, in America in 2001 when he finished his education. And by that time, I had tried to move to Dubai. But Amit, as a younger, being earlier with me, I tried to get him into a job with me in IT and in my Bombay company. And he worked with me a couple of times, but somehow our temperaments didn't match. And his thinking, I mean, he is like me. He's very soft from inside, but very bold and outspoken on the outside. And somehow our temperaments didn't match to work together. So I had to tell him that it's better you start something else or get him started something else. And he didn't stop working with me. That annoyed him more. And when I decided to move from Bombay to Dubai in 2000, which again there were reasons for it because I had everything going for me at that time. I decided to move to Dubai and give it another shot at the age of 53 to start from scratch again. And that's the time when Nikhil came back and he was wanting to work there. I told him, "Well, you come back," and without any hesitation, he took the next flight and joined me in Dubai. And he's been with me ever since for the last 25 years. And he's done a wonderful job with me today, whatever it is. It's his hard work with me, and he has been with me and by my side through my thick and thin, during my health problems and everything. And I must say I'm very blessed to have Nupur and Nikhil and of course Rangan with me during my trying times, the health times I went through very badly through my four heart attacks and wall surgeries and knee replacements and all that thing that happened. But I'm happy that they are here with me, and I'm happy my granddaughters are here with me, and life is good today.
Do you believe in the institution of marriage for kids? Do you think marriage is going to be something that stays?
Well, I don't know. I have a saying that either you're married or you're happy. So that anyway, I've been through so many relationships that I can't tell you about, and all these relationships.
Taking responsibility.
No, it's a relationship which I think every time a relationship breaks off, I mean it's very easy to point out a finger at the other party and saying that she did this, that's why I broke up with her, or my wife was like this, that's why I left her, or whatever it is. But actually, on the hindsight, now when I think about it, I said the fault lies in you. I said I was at fault that my marriage broke up. I was at fault that my other relationships broke up because they had an expiry date. And when you introspect and think about things, and you realize that the fault lies within you, and you have to learn to understand. But the main problem today why marriages don't work, according to me, is their loss of communication. We stop communicating with our partners after 5, 10, 15, 20 years of marriage and take them for granted. And if you keep a communication on every time with all your partners, whether it's a wife, whether it's a girlfriend, or whether it's with friends or with customers, I think keeping a relationship with them, communication gap, where you can speak your problems. Most of the time we don't speak our issues. If today on the hindsight, if I sat down with my wife and said, I have these issues with you, I don't like A, B, C, D, and what do you don't like about me? I don't like these things about you. There could have been a solution. But I found that solution today very late in life with the partner I'm with now. And we sat down and communicated with them because we couldn't get along either. And we are chalk and cheese, we have nothing in common. Though she's from Turkey and I'm from India, but we have nothing in common. But we sat down and talked about it and found our solutions. And we are very happy together today because we found communication. If I had this at the age of 21, probably my life would have been different, but that's destiny. But this is something that I like to share with people, is communication is very important.
I agree. Uncle, unfortunately, we've run out of time, so I want to give people in the audience a chance to ask you questions.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I keep talking because there's so much to talk about.
We're going to pass the mic around and a little hand mic. Yeah?
Yes, no, very really thank you.
Sorry, can you speak a little louder?
If you had another 18 years well ahead with a clear mind and healthy condition, what would be your plan and you would like to work out?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
If you had another 80 years left with a clear mind and a healthy condition, what would you do? What would be your plan?
Are you asking me or are you telling me? No, 80 years is a lot. So if you're saying that if you had another 80 years left, how would you what?
If you had more time, if you had, if you had to start anew, basically, she's asking you, what would you do differently from this point? Now that you know what you know.
Would I have done things differently? Is that what you're asking?
No, what would Rajan Lall's next sort of 5-10 year plan be?
Now, from now on?
Yes.
From now on, I think at my age of 78, I think I've been there, done that. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. My dreams have been fulfilled, and I am happy to see now that, but I'll tell you something about this, that I have always maintained a good relationship with all my affairs, my relationships that I have with all the women that I've had. I've maintained a very good relationship even today. And even today with my ex-wife, we still talk, we still meet, we have our fights and whatever it is, but we eventually get down and start talking and communicating. And now we've understood each other, but I've never broken off in the sense completely cut off unless the situation has led me to do that. I mean, if the situation leads me to do that, which is going to give me stress today at my age, after all my health problems, I completely cut it off and I said, I'm not going to take any more stress. But as you said, answering your question about how would I lead my next few lives, I am leading my life exactly the way I want it, which is the title of my book. And that's how I will continue to lead it, because that's the only way I know how to lead it. I say what I feel. If people don't like it, it's their loss. But I am very frank and upfront about my feelings and my experiences with them. And if they can learn from it, that's good. If they're not, I just let it be and move on. But I hate negativity in a person. You know, when you're in a group of people, you meet so many people who are so negative, and they're always talking about what has gone wrong in their lives and what has gone wrong in other people's lives. And there's, you know, in Dubai especially, or everywhere else, you find you go to a party, the women are in one side and the men are on one side, and the women are sitting down and gossiping. They're always gossiping. And the men are bigger gossipers.
Not all women are. Not all.
No. I'm just telling you that the men are also they do gossip. But why? But have you ever sat down and realized why do they gossip? Or why do women gossip, or why do men gossip? I'll tell you why. The women gossip over there because they are putting down a person who is not present in their group, and putting down a person about whatever they want to talk about that person. And it's nothing, they talk bad about it, because if you talk good, it's not a conversation. But if you talk bad about a person or what that person did or was doing, it's a person, because that person who's talking about you or somebody else is needing attention to be heard and listened to. You understand what I'm saying? If your person is not gossiping, then the other people want to listen to, oh, this happened, that happened. Oh yeah, so tell us more. So she becomes the center of attraction, and that is the cause when this gossip goes on, and everybody wants to have this one-up in the Joneses here. So they start gossiping. And the same thing is with men. If they want attention, they'll start bitching about somebody.
We have one more question. Did you have a question?
I hope I convinced you of that.
Do you need the mic?
Hi Poonam.
This is not a question.
Can you speak a little louder?
Is the mic on? Sorry about that.
I still can't hear you.
It's not about.
Poonam, I can't hear you a little loud. I'm actually hard of hearing.
No, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but if you can come in front and talk.
I can tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
can hear you.
I'll tell him.
Press it down.
Yeah, good.
So this is not a question. Like the last thing that we spoke about, the last thing that we spoke about was a very beautiful thing you said, that you had sat down with your wife and you had better communication. Can you hear me?
If you had sat down with your wife and you'd communicated with her, carry on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote something down in the radio book.
Maybe you want to come in the front since you read the
Come in
book.
the front and talk here.
Can you hear me now?
You're looking lovely, Poonam.
So I actually read your book and I've written it down.
Mic is not working, I think.
It's working.
Yeah?
It's working.
Okay.
So I read your book, and from that part that you mentioned, only a later stage of enlightenment allows one to submit the wrongs of anger or arrogance as only one has the humility which you have to acknowledge them. Like the intricate ethics of lives that one meets in fiction, this real story of a life spans 75 years and captures 3 generations in full view. Everyone has a before and after, and the life story leaves the real characters having expectations and disappointments. For you, as when you go to Central store, but very different to you as you and your family members. Yet, you emerge to tell the story. Each one of us, I'm sure, with about reading it, reflect on our own journeys and lives and lives on the people you touched with that. Thank you for sharing your beautiful, because it is beautiful, because it's layered with couples journey. Just thank you for that. It takes a big man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Poonam. Is there anything you want to ask me, Poonam? Anything that you feel you want to ask me about something?
Rengen has a question for you. And then we're going to conclude, and Rajan will sign books and you guys can carry on talking to him. Yeah?
One question is, can you hear me?
I think I can.
If you will come back to work again, okay, with the same Rajan actually now. First part of my question is about the business part. You will do the same job, same things which you did till now, or you are saying, no, I will do this, I will maybe do different thing, or you are completely other person taking from yourself about business.
It's a good question, Rengen, but it's a question which, if this was possible, how would you lead your life again, is what you're trying to say, given a chance again. You see, given a chance again, if I were to go back, the first thing that I would not do is what I did. My biggest regret is to leave the children and the family for that. It's something that I would not do again, ever. And you're talking of business? The business, like I said, happens and comes to you as an opportunity. When you get an opportunity, you take it. It's a gut feeling. And basically, I go by instinct. You know, when I talk to somebody, when I'm interviewing staff or whatever I'm doing, I don't look at their CVs. I just talk to them. And by talking to them, you get to know whether this person is the right person or not, because I have this very strong sixth sense of intuition on which I lived on and succeeded on. And I would take that person or not hire that person. That person may be a gold medalist, but I would not hire him because he's not the kind of person that I would work with. So basically, your question is, what would you do in a situation like this? Because this is nothing that I planned. I mean, my job in Siva, my job in Bayer, the ITL, my lining business, the hanger business, moving to Dubai, these were all done based on circumstances. My leaving my family was based on circumstances, and this all was destined to happen, so it happened. Even coming to Dubai was a sheer chance which I took in life and grabbed it, and it succeeded. On the hindsight, when you look back 25 years, was this the best decision of my life? I think it was, but I took it because I had said, let me try it. Yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you try, take an opportunity and grab it, and then follow it through, things do work out. For some it does, for some it doesn't, but for me, I always took an opportunity, saw it and grabbed it, and that's where I am today.
Take the result. Right now, you are happy from where you are now.
I am very happy and content with where I am now, and I've been blessed with I think my mother's blessings of 35 years, whom I looked after so well, and the blessing of my mother and my Sai Baba has been there, that I'm blessed today to have my entire family with me back together, and having my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren, and you in my life, and my elder son, and everybody else back in my life. And I'm very happy and pleased that for all the wrongs that I've done, I must have done something right.
On that note, thank you everyone for coming. Rajan Uncle will sign books. If you'd like to buy a book, if you'd like to have a book signed, please help yourself, make yourself at home. Enjoy.
Thank you. Asim, before I go, thank you for coming. Raj, is Raj there?
Sorry?
Raj is gone. Okay. Asim, and thank you for Bernie and Angela and Vida and Raha and Vaiza for coming, and all your friends for coming today and bearing me for so long and tolerating me. Poonam and Tammy, thank you for all coming and being here. Rasim, is there anything that you would like to say? You're very quiet. Normally you talk a lot. But would you like to say something?
No, it's always a pleasure to hear you. It's always a pleasure to read the different extracts from that book, get lessons that we are all blessed to have, lessons shown to us, proven back to us, and I think we're blessed to have you in our life. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to hear some good things about it. Nikit, would you like to say something now that you're standing in a quiet corner there? Come on, come and say something. Come on. Tell something about this dad of yours. Come here and say something.
Why?
So yeah, it's
Come here and stand. Come here.
dad is really this is very good level, and somebody who I worked with quite closely through 25 years and live with this man, and I think he's very much and one thing that I've seen in the his life as a skill is humans and everything, and always make sure that cheat people and make good relationships. And money is the relationships with our knowledge. And the books that I'm reading something that all of my today. And then thirdly, very important. And I will already give you some good words. And one thing that is issues. It's not like that. And a lot of negatives. The thing is, why is it not good? See the negatives and try to change yourself. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.